In Star Wars, we often see characters faced with difficult choices, and the consequences of those choices can be significant. Both the movies and the TV shows frequently tackle complex philosophical issues, and today we'll be exploring some of the most memorable moral and ethical dilemmas depicted in the franchise, drawing on various philosophical concepts to help analyse these dilemmas. Let's start with the iconic arc of Anakin Skywalker. In Revenge of the Sith, Anakin faces a number of struggles as he grapples with the decision of whether to fully embrace the dark side of the Force or remain loyal to the Jedi Order and the principles of the light side. Anakin's struggles touch on the concept of the dark side as a physiological state. The dark side of the Force is often portrayed as a seductive and alluring power that promises to give its wielder control and power. Anakin's desire for power, his fear of losing those he cares about, and his feelings of inadequacy all drive him towards the dark side of the Force. One of the major philosophical concepts that Anakin struggles with is the idea of determinism versus free will. Determinism is the idea that all events, including human actions, are ultimately predetermined and cannot be changed. Throughout the film, it is suggested that Anakin's fate is predetermined, with various characters, including Sidious and Yoda, suggesting that he is destined to fall to the dark side. However, Anakin himself resists the idea, believing that he has the power to choose his own path, which is the concept of free will. There is also the idea of the ends justifying the means. The ends justify the means principle suggests that if an action leads to a desirable outcome, then the action is morally acceptable, regardless of how it is accomplished. As he becomes more deeply involved with the dark side, Anakin begins to justify his actions by claiming that they are necessary to protect those he cares about, particularly his wife, Padme.
I found a way to save you.
Save me?
From my nightmares.
This creates a dilemma for Anakin, as he must weigh the potential benefits of his actions against the harm they may cause. Ultimately, he does fall to the dark side. But these struggles faced by Anakin are complex and multifaceted. They reflect the timeless human struggle to reconcile our actions with our sense of morality and ethics, and to navigate the often difficult choices that arise when we are faced with difficult situations. Another memorable ethical dilemma appears in The Empire Strikes Back, when Lando Calrissian is asked to betray his friends in Cloud City and join the Empire in exchange for a large sum of money. Lando must decide whether to put his own interests above those of his friends or to risk everything to protect them. This dilemma can be analysed through the concept of egoism, which holds that the ultimate moral good is one's own self-interest. From an egoist perspective, Lando's decision to accept the Empire's offer and pursue his own financial security would be seen as the morally correct choice. Egoism argues that every individual is justified in prioritizing their own self-interest above the interests of others, and that this ultimately leads to the greatest overall good for society. However, Lando ultimately decides to double-cross the Empire and rescue his friends, suggesting that he values loyalty and friendship over his own self-interest. This decision can be seen as an expression of the ethical concept of altruism, which holds that the ultimate moral good is the well-being of others. Altruism argues that individuals have a moral obligation to prioritize the well-being of others, and that this leads to the greatest overall good for society. By prioritizing the well-being of his friends over his own self-interest, Lando is acting altruistically. Another way to look at Lando's decision is through the concept of moral relativism, which holds that there is no one objective moral truth, and that moral beliefs and practices are shaped by cultural and individual context. From a moral relativist perspective, Lando's decision to rescue his friends could be seen as the right choice within his cultural context, where loyalty and friendship are highly valued. However, in a different cultural context where individual self-interest is prioritized, the decision to stick with the Empire might be seen as the right choice. One of the most memorable moral dilemmas in The Phantom Menace is the one faced by Qui-gon Jinn. During a mission to negotiate an end to the blockade on Naboo, his ship's hyperdrive is damaged. He lands on the nearby planet Tatooine to seek repairs. Qui-Gon meets a young slave, Anakin Skywalker, who he believes has the potential to become a powerful Jedi. Qui-Gon decides to free Anakin and bring him to the Jedi Council, but the Council refuses to train Anakin, citing his age and troubled past as reasons for their decision. Qui-Gon here is faced with an ethical dilemma. Should he follow the Jedi Council's decision and leave Anakin on Naboo, or should he defy the Council and take Anakin as his own apprentice? On the one hand, following the Council's decision would show respect for their authority and preserve the Jedi Order's traditions. On the other hand, defying the Council would allow Qui-Gon to follow his own judgment and give Anakin a chance at a better life, but it would also go against the Council's wishes and potentially create conflict within the Order. This dilemma can be analysed through the lens of Kantian Ethics, which holds that the right action is the one that is guided by the principle of respect for persons. In this case, Qui-Gon must decide whether to respect the wishes of his peers on the Jedi Council or to respect Anakin's potential and autonomy as a person. Qui-Gon ultimately decides to defy the Council and take Anakin as his apprentice, setting in motion events that will have far-reaching consequences for the Star Wars galaxy. This ethical dilemma highlights the complexity of moral decision-making and the importance of considering the potential consequences of one's actions. It also illustrates the tension that can exist between personal beliefs and duty, and the challenges of balancing the needs of the individual with those of the greater community. Qui-Gon's decision to take Anakin as his apprentice is a bold and risky move that goes against the wishes of the Jedi Council, but it is one that is guided by his belief in Anakin's potential and his commitment to doing what he believes is right. Finally, in Return of the Jedi, Luke Skywalker is faced with a moral quandary of his own. When he confronts his father, Darth Vader, Luke is tempted by the dark side and must decide whether to give in to his anger or to forgive his father and embrace the light side. This dilemma can be analysed through the perspective of virtue ethics, which holds that the right action is determined by whether it reflects a virtuous character. According to virtue ethics, a virtuous character is one that embodies virtues such as compassion, forgiveness, and self-control. In this case, Luke must decide whether it is virtuous to give in to his anger and seek revenge against his father, or to demonstrate compassion and forgiveness by sparing him. Another way to look at this problem is through Aristotle's concept of the mean within virtue ethics. The mean is the balance between two extremes, and it is the virtuous action that lies between them. In this case, the extreme of giving in to anger and seeking revenge is seen as a vice, while the extreme of showing no anger or resentment at all is seen as a weakness. The mean, or virtuous action, lies in the middle, where Luke is able to show compassion and forgiveness towards his father, while still acknowledging and addressing the wrongs that have been committed. Luke's decision to forgive his father and embrace the light side can also be seen as an expression of the concept of moral courage. Moral courage is the willingness to act in accordance with one's values and beliefs, even in the face of adversity or danger. By choosing to forgive his father and spare him, Luke is acting in accordance with his values and beliefs, even though it is a difficult and risky choice. One of the interesting things about the Star Wars franchise is that it often presents complex moral and ethical dilemmas without giving a clear right or wrong answer. Each of these characters must weigh the pros and cons of their choices and decide which consequences they believe are most significant. This open-ended approach to ethical dilemmas allows the audience to engage with the material on a deeper level and come to their own conclusions about the right course of action. Star Wars also touches on larger philosophical questions about the nature of good and evil, the role of fate and free will, and the relationship between personal happiness and moral responsibility. These are complex and nuanced topics that have been debated by philosophers for centuries, and the Star Wars movies and TV shows offer a unique and entertaining way to explore these ideas. I hope this has given you a deeper appreciation for the philosophical themes present in the franchise and will spark some interesting thoughts and discussions down below. Thank you for watching, and as always, may the Force be with you.